Hey guys, we're looking at Diva Drift today. It is 140 presets, Lo-Fi, Ambient. If you want to try the sounds out yourself, there are 10 free presets that you can pick up in the link in the description now. And if you want the 140 presets, they're on an intro deal of $15, and there are bonuses going out in April, just as a thank you to the initial group who've bought the pack, the first one that I put out independently. Okay, so today we're going to look at specific sounds within the pack. And I picked out 10 sounds that are based on the digital oscillator. Let's just pick a couple of those sounds and have a listen. Okay, so even though the digital oscillator can be quite bright based on a JP8000, you can actually do things to make sure that it fits within this kind of lo-fi ambient style. In this instance, you can select the digital oscillator from your drop-down list here. There's your Moog, there's a couple of Rolands, that's a Korg MS-20, and this is your only digital oscillator. On the left-hand layer of this oscillator, I've selected noise, and on the right-hand layer is providing the tonal element, and the left-hand layer is providing kind of a texture. I'm just going to change to a version of this sound that I made where I've really ramped up the noise component. And I hope what you can hear there is that within the JP8000 oscillator, you can actually tune the noise. So it becomes, rather than just texture, it becomes tonal. Now, in this instance, it's turned down so low that in fact it is really more texture, but it's worth exploring that as a separate sound design exercise. So we've got the pulse wave. You can change the pulse width and the spike up, and these are going to change the character of the sound. The spike up is going to add upper harmonics, and if you go too far with this, it will start to sound really harsh. But fortunately, we've got the low pass filter where we can pull back. So we get, get additional harmonics and additional interest, but we don't have to put up with a really bright and unpleasant sound. I didn't, in this case, choose to modulate the spike up, but I could have engaged it just there. And you see we've got LFO2 mapped, and LFO probably... yeah, that would have been a really nice one to engage the modulation on. I am modulating the pulse width slightly, but that's an option for the future. I've not got the sync engaged because we don't want that hard sync sound, and I've not got high quality engaged. We're in a lo-fi pack, so I kind of want a little bit more graininess. I'm not using the envelope on the tune mod because we quickly go into sci-fi territory. And we don't want to cross modulate because it's going to sound pretty unpleasant pretty quickly. So there's our oscillator. Visually it looks like it's going into a high pass filter, but you can see this says post. So effectively what's actually happening is we're starting off in the oscillator, it goes into the low pass filter, and then it goes into the high pass. In this instance it kind of doesn't matter because we've got 0 set there, so this high pass is not really doing anything for us. So we're going from the tonal part of the sound, and then we're going into a filter, and it's subtractive synthesis. So now we're going to take we're filtering away some of the sound. And I've got this cutoff and resonance both set pretty low. And the reason for that is it's a bright oscillator already. We're in lo-fi territory. We don't want really bright characteristics for this sound. I've got the keyboard tracking slightly above halfway, which means as I play up the keyboard, the filter is slightly opening. If we can invert it so it gets brighter as you go further down the keyboard, but in this instance, there's just a touch of filter opening as we go up. In addition, there's a small amount of velocity sensitivity engaged. So as we play the keyboard, the velocity is controlling your filter up and down a little bit. And finally, we've got this frequency modulation. I've just engaged a small amount. If I bring this up quite a bit, it's certainly going to operate on that noise and start to sound unpleasant. So unless that's the effect you're specifically going for, I'm just using the frequency modulation for a little bit of additional character, but I'm being very cautious about how far I take that. The envelope, nothing particularly spectacular, although what I would say, we've got a bit of envelope engaged on the filter, and rather than having a very fast attack, I've just taken the attack up and it just knocks off the front end of the filter, and I think it really works well for this sound. Okay, so we'll go down and look at the LFOs built into this sound. LFO 1 is hardwired to the vibrato on the tuning. So if I play the note, so you can go from all the way from a very slow moving LFO, which will give you that kind of woozy, pitchy sound, or you can go really fast and get into sort of audio rate modulation. So again, it's for you to use your ear whilst adjusting the rate and the vibrato amount and see what works well for that sound. Sometimes it's the slow, pitchy kind of ooziness, and sometimes you want a much faster, wobbly vibrato. I've not got any glide going on. Let's just see what it would sound like if we engage that. I did use it on a number of sounds in the pack. It just wasn't right for this sound, although it is still quite pleasant. I normally lean heavily on LFO 2, but I'm not really engaging it anywhere apart from on this pulse width and a very small amount on the pan modulation. It's so subtle that you're probably not really going to hear it even in headphones. Normally I'm engaging it on the filter or other parts of Diva. Okay, so you can see down here that I've got the stack set to 2. What that means is Diva, every time I press a note, it's going to play 2 parallel notes of the same sound. And normally you'd expect to hear phasing, but if we go into trimmers, you can see that I've actually set this up for up 7 semitones, i.e. a perfect fifth. So you don't get any phasing and you get that really nice interval. And I can't see, one thing I would say is the accuracy is on great. It kind of doesn't matter because the offline accuracy is on best. What that means is when you bounce out your track, Diva is going to feed the divine version of the sound into Ableton or whatever your DAW is, and then you're going to bounce out at the very best version. So you can kind of drop your accuracy down, even down to draft, as long as your offline accuracy is always set to best. So finally, we're going into Diva's 2 effects. We've got in this one, it's got some pretty nice chorus effects. In this case, we've got the ensemble, which is a kind of Art Selena style effect, the string machine. And then classic is more kind of a classic Juno type effect. That's what it was modeled on. The ensemble is kind of rich and it's really nice for this sound. And you can really hear when you contrast the off and on position. So always worth turning on and off your effects to kind of hear what that effect is doing. Sometimes it might not be right for the sound, or you might prefer to exchange it with one of your own VSTs. And then we've got the plate reverb, which is pretty nice in Diva. But again, you might want to exchange that for, if you've got a really nice, UAD reverb or some other really expensive reverb, then you might want to kind of change out the Diva Zone reverb. So that was a real whistle-stop tour of setting up a patch. We're using the digital JP8000 oscillator and using various characteristics, a bit of a noise layer, pulling back on the filter, a little tiny bit of frequency modulation, some vibrato, and then a specific effects setup, and a little bit of an interval. All these things come together to make this sound. So it's not too bright. It's not out of place in this lo-fi ambient pack. So if you want 140 sounds like this, or a whole range of interesting lo-fi sounds, then you can pick up the pack on $15 intro deal right now. I'm going to play a few of the sounds from the wider pack, and then I will sign off. So I hope to see you on another video soon. Thank you.